It's a little bit chilly here in California today. It's like 69 degrees. There's a fire happening not too far from where I live here in Hollywood, West Hollywood area. It's a little crazy. For you guys that have followed the vlog for a while, you followed me when I first announced that I'd be going out to California and when I didn't have a car and all that kind of garbage. So one of the first things that I did was I said I need some sort of form of transportation. I knew I wanted a motorcycle, but I didn't know whether or not a motorcycle only was going to be the way to get around in these parts. And obviously, for all you guys that don't know, now I only have the Grom and that's the only way that I get around. Without further ado, I got this thing called the URB-E. URB-E. They're made in good old US of A, and I'm gonna go into the reason why ultimately you should probably not buy one of these. When I first got the URB-E, it was the coolest thing ever. Everybody would like stop me and they wanted to know what it was, and to be honest, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of, let me rephrase that. It was a lot of fun on very smooth, flat roads. And the reason there being is because there's a lack of suspension on these things. Now, for all you guys that don't know what an URB-E is, it's a fold-up electric portable scooter. You may have seen them on Instagram. They do a lot of advertising there and at USC and UCLA. But ultimately, it's a fold-up scooter, goes around 20 miles an hour for 20 miles, right? And I had the black label edition. I got to ride a couple others. Now, I have nothing negative to say about the actual scooter itself. I loved it. I thought it was so cool. Other than its lack of suspension, it was awesome. And people loved it. I loved it. It served its purpose until I got a motorcycle, and then it kind of became irrelevant for me. Pretty hard. I ended up getting rid of the URB-E, and this is the reason why. The company has a great idea. Portable, electronic, gas-free scooter that is relatively light. You can charge it up really quickly, and it's allowed on the sidewalks and street and all that kind of stuff. It goes relatively fast, and you can get like a cargo net or cage or whatever. But the problem starts when the item itself needs service. I cannot stress enough that I actually love the product. But what it came down to was I think that this company, which is a startup technically still, ultimately what it came down to was a great idea with a lack of vision of how to scale. And the reason why I say this is because let's just take my poor tiny example, my experience for example. I need a new tire. They're flatless tires, right? They're a solid rubber tire that doesn't go flat, but they do bald. And when it comes to hills, if your tire doesn't have meat on it, the front tire just kind of spins. So I said, you know what? Let me pay to have this tire replaced. For all you guys that watch my channel, you might know that I'm slightly mechanically inclined. Not as much as Jake the Garden Snake, but above the level of Chase on two wheels. The problem started when I went to go and change the tire. I took the front wheel off and I realized that the tire itself needed to be replaced via an electronic press. A hydraulic press, for that matter. You could argue and say, hey, well, you could just go out and get another tire and have a bicycle shop or a tire shop with a small enough tire press to put this tire on. Yes, you could, if you could find the tire. Now, since there's no name on the tire, you can't actually find it online. And for the tires that I did find, they weren't the right ones. So I said, you know what, I have this wheel off, let me just call URB-E. They're located in Pasadena, California, and let's talk about how exactly I have to get this thing replaced. I contact URB-E and we talk for a little bit, and I quickly realized that this simple, or should be simple, task of changing the tire is going to turn out to be the worst experience of my entire life. And boy, was I right. In order to change the tire, I need to bring the whole unit to Pasadena, California, because that's the only way that they can get me a tire. Now, I did try to argue with them, not argue, just gently talk to them about sending me an actual tire, and that did not go over so well. That leads me to asking, hey, so how much is it going to cost to fix this tire? And the kind gentleman on the phone tells me it's going to be $50, right? I was kind of shocked, to be honest. $50 to fix an electric scooter tire seemed like a lot to me. More than the money thing, to be honest, was the fact that I needed to bring the diggity dang unit all the way to Pasadena to get this thing fixed. Now, that's fine for me. I live in West Hollywood, California. But who that isn't fine for is someone who doesn't live in West Hollywood, California. Maybe someone who lives on the other goddamn side of the country. Because you have to pay to ship and receive your item back. Now, just from West Hollywood, and I'll put a map on the screen as to where West Hollywood is and Pasadena, it ended up costing me around $75 when it was all said and done to get one tire, and that's it, replaced on my electric bike. That seems ridiculous because it is ridiculous. I wanted to do a whole series where I rode the URB and, I had fun on the URB, which I did, but I could never promote a product where if you need some sort of service, granted, this was only a tire. What would have happened if I needed a new battery or a motor or something? God only knows how long it would have taken. I was quoted a 2-day turnaround period. Do you know how long it took me? 15 days, 15 business days to get my tire. One tire. And I live like 30 minutes away from the place. So in order to save some money, I actually took the wheel off of the URB and shipped just the wheel, thank God. But I can't, for everybody else that is thinking about getting one of these or has one, get rid of it before you have to do any service. Because once you do, it's a long downtime. I never got phone calls back. I ended up calling every other day in order to get someone to just give me a quote. They had my tire. I was like, guys, come on, dude. I mean, you got a cool product, but give me a break. I'm just trying to ride, Like, I spent $1,000 on it because it was used, but some people are spending $2,000 on these things and they can't even get replacement parts on time because these people are it's such a shame because it's such a cool little gizmo gadget, if you want to call it that, but the company behind it is just not ready for the scale that they got to, and they need a much bigger facility, they need much more people, they need reliable people, and I don't know if it's just a California thing. I haven't had that experience, so I can't say that it is. But, I'm kind of like, I'm kind of disappointed. I spent all this money and I got really shoddy service, and it's a cool thing, but I could never ever tell people to buy it, and I never would buy it as a gift either. So if you're thinking about getting an URB this year for Christmas or for your college graduate or your kid that's in college, just know that if it ever needs service, you're gonna be down for at least like 2 weeks, unless and that's coming from someone who lives literally right next, like 30 minutes away from the place. Just kind of disappointed because I was looking so much to do a like a vlog series on it, and ultimately it ended up being a waste of time. But that's all I gotta say. It's just like, if you have a startup, don't always think about making the greatest product, right? Think about what happens when, and I've done startups before. I've seen the failures, and the failure always is in scalability. If you cannot scale with demand, your company will fail. Your product might go down as the coolest failure ever. At the end of the day, it's just like, you coulda, shoulda, woulda, and I really wish that they did, a lot more with the product, a lot more with their company, because the product was really, really cool. It just sucks that that's what it ended up being.